Mr. X with the Xtreme channel here. There's been a lot of speculation. Will Xtreme Topics continue with what happened after last month's episode? If you're unaware, go check out Xtreme Topics episode 7. And unfortunately, there was an accident, and my former co-host, Richard, aka Dick Ryder, will no longer be on the show. May he rest in peace. Mr. X on the Xtreme channel here with Xtreme Topics Episode 8, Statue Collecting for Dummies. Let's get a few things out of the way first. Number one, what is Xtreme Topics? Xtreme Topics is a monthly segment where we look at pertinent things, whether it's within statue collecting, like this month, or pop culture in general. Second thing, let's get out of the way. If you're new to this channel, please go ahead and hit subscribe and that bell. If you don't like the content, you can see, you'll like the content. I can't even talk. You can unsubscribe later. Also, if you're not new to the channel, go ahead and make a comment below. Talk about my mom, talk about your mom. Let's just start talking about shit. Third thing, why did I just swear? Well, YouTube has a new rule coming out, so we have got to make this channel and this episode and all future videos unsuitable for children to make sure that this channel can not only continue, but you can continue your comments. So write some fucking comments and make sure that we are suitable for adults only. So I'm really excited about this month's topic. It was actually suggested by one of our viewers, but this is Xtreme Topics, Episode 8, and it is statue collecting for dummies. Now today we're going to talk about statue collecting tips. Just the tips. And as many sexual innuendos and fucking swear words as we can think of to make sure we stay adult oriented. Now one of the things when I started the channel I did not expect was the sheer volume of questions. I've become a non-self-proclaimed kind of statue guru, and I do have a lot of information and knowledge to share. Whether these are comments or questions on the YouTube channel, their emails, I've said my email a few times, or forums or Facebook. I get about 50 private messages on Facebook a day, and I just can't keep up with them, because the other thing with private messages, when you respond to them, you get more responses. I usually try and get to each of those at the end of the night. And I think I have like 500 pending friend requests, so if that's one of you guys, I'm not ignoring you. I just haven't got to it yet. But a lot of people have a lot of questions about statue collecting. And while I'm clearly not the expert, as I said, I do have a little bit of experience. So based on one of the viewer suggestions, this is going to be a great topic to give you guys a few tips of stuff that I've learned, stuff I've made mistakes, just some knowledge that I have. And I started thinking about this topic. I can't tell you what to do with your collection, but I can give you those mistakes I've made. I can give you knowledge, and I can ask you a lot of questions that may point you in the right direction for your collecting. And this video isn't just for newbies. I get questions from people who have been in the statue collecting game for their first statue, or they've done it for longer than I have, and everything in between. So pretty much anybody can take something away from this video. You like that marketing ploy I did right there? It's true, but it is a good marketing ploy. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to break it into 10 different topics with statue collecting. And some of these I'm just going to tell you my advice, some of you I'm going to ask some questions, and hopefully you can come to a more decisive outcome when you're trying to make these decisions. Because let's face it, when we're buying a $1,000 fucking piece, I can't say the TOY word because that would be too geared towards children, but a fucking $1,000 piece, it's a serious decision. And think about when you're buying multiple $1,000 fucking pieces. There's a lot you want to consider, and you don't want to make the wrong decision. So let's start talking about the first topic. One of the things collectors worry about, because it's a $1,000 fucking piece or more or less, is what about the resale value? What if this loses value. Should I buy it? I'm worried it's not going to be a good investment. Now, we actually did an extreme topic on will your statue hold its value, so go check that out. But I do want to talk about this. Now, whenever you buy a statue, there's a number of factors. We're going to talk about 6 of these factors that will affect the resale value. While these factors aren't 100% solid, they're true about 90% of the time, and the other 10% are just exceptions, like everything in life has exceptions here and there. But the first thing you want to look at when you're thinking about will this statue hold its value is the ES, or edition size. It's a basic rule of economy, supply and demand. If there's a lot of a statue, for example 6,000 Sideshow Gambit premium formats, or 150 Sideshow Pumpkinheads, Pumpkinhead is a lot harder to attain, so people will pay more in the end. Does that make sense? Pretty simple. The higher the ES, usually, the less the resale value. For example, Sideshow has stuff that's been on their website for 2 years that they haven't sold out of. So if you're going to sell it second hand, you can't charge what Sideshow charges brand new because they still have it, and they're probably discounting it. And customs, we're going to talk about customs as one of the topics, but customs typically have a lower ES, which most of the time will help their resale value. Second thing is popularity of a character. And it's not just that simple that if the character is really popular, he's going to resell for more. Sometimes a character who's not very popular will resell for more because there's not a lot of options of that character. It's kind of that sweet spot in the middle of characters that aren't popular and they aren't unpopular, that don't sell as well. So Wolverines typically always resell really well, and then if you have a really rare character, again like the Pumpkinhead, there's not many Pumpkinhead options out there. I talk about Pumpkinhead because that is the only grail out there for me. It's the piece that I want really bad, and I just will not pony up the dough. So popularity of a character has to do with will affect the resale value, positive and negative. Next one, and I'm stealing this from someone else. They said it, and I actually completely agree with it because I see examples all the time. Marvel characters resell the best. Better than DC, better than horror pieces for the most part. It's just a fact. And I'm not sure why this is because you will find a lot of DC comic geeks, and no offense, I'm a geek, that area be more popular, but typically DC pieces sell for less than retail when you resell them. Kind of an interesting fact. So if you're looking at specifically comic, Marvel will resell more than DC. Number 4 is if it's a really unique concept or the first time that concept has been done, that is a factor that will affect the resale value. Or if it's a concept that's done over and over again, it will obviously negatively affect the resale value. So the uniqueness of the concept will have a large part of whether the resale value of that statue will be higher or lower down the road. Another one, and we're going to talk about this a little later, is hype. Some people purposefully hype a statue to make it more valuable in their own collection or for a friend, and some people bash it for that same reason to make another one more valuable. So hype about a statue will affect the resale value. It's sad, but it's the way the world works. People want to be accepted, they look for other people's opinions, and again, this is an entirely different topic on its own that we're going to talk about the 10 different topics. So hype is a factor. Last factor is what's going on with pop culture. For example, if you have a Fantastic Four statue, its value is probably going to skyrocket when the Fantastic Four hits the MCU. So what's going on in current pop culture will affect, and I'm not just talking about movies, though part of it will affect the resale value of your statue. Which leads us to topic number 2. What if I'm going to resell a statue? What precautions should I take? What should I know? What should I look for? What should I do? And there's a lot going into this. So let's just jump in, and the number 1 rule you need to think about is patience. Patience is the key to reselling a statue. And you all have seen it before. Someone will post a statue for $1,500. 2 days later, it's $1,400. 2 days later it's $1,300, and so on and so forth. I know of one that started at $2,200 and went for $1,100 because they really wanted to move it. So these emergency sells are not good business as a seller. They affect the price, and patience and finding the right buyer and the right situation will really pay off in the end and get you the money that you want, unless you're just dumb as fuck and you want more money than it's worth. Now, a few other things. We talk about the right situation and the right price and the right buyer. First of all, it's extremely important you protect yourself as a seller. Yes, as a seller, not just a buyer, which we'll talk about later. First rule, I'm going to tell you, avoid eBay when possible. I still sell on eBay, but there are a lot of buying scammers out there. Not only are there buying scammers, but eBay takes 10%. That's such a ripoff. Avoid eBay when possible. Well, Mr. X, where do I sell my statue? Forums, YouTube, Facebook buy-sell trade groups is the absolute best. Craigslist, places that you can make transactions that don't have to pay as many fees as eBay does. Another rule of thumb, when you are selling to somebody and you're doing an online transaction with money, get references on that person. And don't just get one. Make sure they're a solid buyer. Make sure people can vouch for them. Make sure it's people that you know. It's highly important you get references. Take pictures of your statue. Take pictures of it put together. Take pictures of any questionable things on it. Take pictures of it packed up. Overpack it. Pack it more than it was when you originally received it. Make sure everything is pristine. Now, this next part is going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm just going to tell you the way I do it. Now, when you are selling stuff, most people use PayPal. Obviously, if you meet in person, you can do a cash transaction or however you want to. Now, PayPal has two options. First option is you can pay as friends and family. Friends and family, there's generally no transaction fees and you have no protection as a seller and or a buyer. Number two is goods and services. Goods and services, PayPal will take a fee. Usually it's between 3 and 6%. In the US, it's typically 3.5%, and they will insure that purchase. Now, I only use friends and family as the seller. I'm going to say it again. I only use friends and family as the seller. People will tell you that's controversial because you should always buy goods and services to protect yourself. Well, as a seller, and that's all I'm talking about right now, there are many scamming buyers out there who will pay via goods and services, and then they will get the statue, and the statue's in perfect condition, and they will make a claim against you as the seller on PayPal, and you will have to pony up some of the money they gave you. Or maybe there's a tiny, tiny minor imperfection that is worth, $10. They will make it worth $200. You have got to protect yourself as a seller. Now, the caution with this, if you only sell as friends and family, then you inevitably will eliminate a lot of your buyer pool, and you will have to be more patient and wait longer for the right situation and the right buyer. And the basic rule of selling is if anything is fishy, trust your gut and walk away. If something stinks, it's not going to go well. Which, let's talk about topic number 3, buying. And what's ironic about this is we're going to talk about a lot of the same exact things and some completely opposite things when it came to selling. So first of all, just like selling, the number one rule is patience. And I don't mean wait a few days. Sometimes waiting years will get you that price that you want. You have got to have patience. And this is incredibly difficult for us as collectors because when we get it in our head we want to buy a statue, we want to buy it. Which leads me into the second part of buying. If you find a statue that you didn't intend on buying, sleep on it. Do not make an impulse buy. Hashtag restraint. Not only sleep on it, but start doing some research. Research about the seller, research about the piece, research about what it's sold for before on eBay and other forums. You can search Facebook sell groups through the top. Search for that piece, BST, stuff like that. This way, you may find in a few days that it wasn't the deal you thought it was, or maybe you don't need that statue as much as you thought you did, and you can save yourself some money. Now this piece is going to make me seem a little hypocritical, but just being really real with you. As a buyer, I only buy as goods and services if I do not trust that person or know them. It's just a fact. I'm going to protect myself. I don't know if they will never send it. If I pay via friends and family and they never send it, I have no recourse and they can just screw me. It's sad, but that's the way it is. I will pay friends and family via the people I trust greatly. Now, this is specifically for buying resell statues. We're going to talk about purchase orders and stuff like that in another topic. So as a buyer, I only buy as goods and services. I will even pay that extra 3.5% or 4% because I would rather have the protection. Now the nice thing is I have a pretty good reputation as a buyer and seller. I don't have a pretty good, I have a flawless reputation. I've bought and sold tons and I've never had an issue. And for me, I mean, I've had pieces come damaged where the seller offers me $200 refund and I tell them, just give me $100 and we'll call it good. And just like selling, trust your gut. If something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. Walk away. Topic number 4. This is probably the question I get the most, and it is, should I buy A or B? And sometimes it's the same character, sometimes it is completely different statues, and tenured collectors ask me this, new collectors ask me this, and I can't answer that question for you right now because I don't know which pieces you're looking at. But I can help you with the questions I would ask you. And I'm going to give you 7 or 8 different questions that you should ask yourself if you're in this situation that can help guide you in the right direction. First question you want to ask yourself is, what direction is my collection going? Does this statue fit in? Will this make sense? Is this part of the direction I want to go, or is it starting a whole new direction that I'm willing to go down and figure that out? Question number 2 is, are you planning to buy more than one of the same character? So for example, if this is a Wolverine piece you're looking at, is this going to be your only Wolverine piece? If so, you're not planning on ever buying any more, then you need to think about, is this the absolute Wolverine that I want? And so on and so forth. If you're going to buy more, how does the other ones you're going to buy fit into your collection differently than this one? Next one, what kind of themes are you going with? Are you doing all horror? Are you doing all X-Men? Are you doing, all Wolverine statues? So ask yourself these questions and you'll know if this particular statue, A or B, is a right fit for your collection. Are you planning on sticking with one company and one line? I'm buying all the Sideshow X-Men. You know who you are. I'm buying all the custom group from this custom group because they have similar bases. Will this, if your answer is yes to those questions, will this statue work? If your answer is no, then it doesn't matter. Do you care if they're a different scale? Is this going to go with other pieces that are 1/3? Is this the 1/3 Batman with a quarter scale Joker? Do they look good together? Does that matter to you? Is that the direction it may go in the future? You have to ask yourself this and ask yourself if you're okay. As you're answering all these questions, the next question is, what future purchases will I need to make if I buy this statue? I want to do an entire X-Men line, so what other pieces are there? And how does this line up with all those previous questions we just asked? You got to think long-term sometimes. And the last question is, after you've answered all those other questions, how feasible is all that working together if you buy this statue? If it doesn't work, there's going to be better statues that come along. Trust me, which leads us to topic number 5. What if a better piece comes along? This is probably the shortest topic because it's the easiest. A better statue will always come along. It is a fact. People have these grails. The grails are so rare. I mean, they're probably 1 in 100 statues. So chances are the statue you are buying is not going to be that grail. There will be a better one that comes along, and you have to make sure you're okay with that. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure that you're okay owning this piece when a better piece is out there, or having to sell this piece, whether it's for a loss or not, to purchase the new piece. So don't ever worry about, is there a better statue coming along? There always is. Topic number 6. I entitled this or that post, which I'm going to explain what that is, and that's not really what this is about anyway. But let's start with explaining what that is. So many times people will post on Facebook, left or right, top or bottom. I want to talk about these posts. A lot of times it's with the same character. 50% of the time, these people are very curious. Maybe they want some direction for themselves. Maybe they can't decide. Maybe they're just curious what other people think. The other 50% of the time, this is done by trolls who are purposefully trying to bash one of those statues or make one look superior. And if you're sitting there being like, I've done that, are you talking to me, Mr. X? If you're asking that question, fuck yeah, I probably am talking to you. And if you're not, then you have nothing to worry about. And I bet you I just got a thumbs down for that. But these are pointless, first of all. I swear to God, every time it's like left, right, left, right, left, right. It's like half and half. But the reason these are pointless is I have a very nice big collection, and most people would say it's really good. There's a few people out there that don't like it. Some of them may not like the way I have it displayed. Some of them, it may not be their taste for the pieces I have. Some are just trolls. I don't give a fuck what any of those people think. It's my collection. I love the way it looks. I actually redid what's behind the camera recently, and I love it because I can't stop staring at it. Phase 2 is right there, baby. Next to XM, Weapon X, and X-Force, and woo, getting excited. But anyway, I don't give a shit what other people think. So if you're going to base your collecting decisions off what other people think, you are going to fail. So do your research. Ask yourself those questions we talked about earlier. If it's going to be good for your collection, who gives a fuck what other people think? Just buy it. Or don't buy it. Don't buy a piece because everybody else thinks it's great. Next topic, and again, we've done an extreme episode on this, customs versus license, but it's customs or not. And a lot of you are thinking, Mr. X, you are so pro-custom. Of course you're going to say custom. You're going to be surprised. I love customs. I think they're better quality most of the time. They're better detail. They're cooler concepts. But if you're going to buy custom, there are 5 things you need to be made aware of, and they are not good things. Number 1, you have significant more risk. This is not a publicly traded company or a entity that has something to lose. This is a group of people who might tuck tail and run with your money. It's a lot rarer than people think, but it does happen. And you have to know that that's a risk. Some of the ways you can mitigate it is look at that person's past history. You can see how they respond to you. You can see how passionate they are. You can see if other people have dealt with them. So there are ways to lower that risk, but it is always there. Number 2, shipping is expensive as fuck. Again, we need to make sure that kids don't watch this, so start swearing in the comments. You will pay 3 to 5 times more in shipping. I typically pay $400 to $600 to ship a quarter scale custom piece. And that $400 to $600, that's how much a quarter scale piece should cost. And that's just the shipping I'm paying. So you have to be ready for that. It sucks. And then that affects the resale value because that is part of your investment. Next time, wait times are extremely longer. Not only with the manufacturing and production of the piece, but especially on the shipping. It is such a pain in the ass. I have so many pieces that I will pay in full and pay for shipping, and I still wait another 90 days. And it's shipped overnight via DHL. I have pieces that they told me it's ready to ship in December, and I finally get it in July after I paid in full. It is a frustrating part of the custom game that you have to be comfortable with. Next item you need to do, this is a practice everyone should do. Wait until a commissioner has pieces in hand before you purchase 2 pieces from them. I'm sorry, it's just a good practice. I don't always follow it, but I do most of the time. If that commissioner does not have pieces in hand for yourself or other collectors, do not do multiple orders with them. You want to see what the quality is like. You want to make sure they're not going to take your money. You may miss out on some orders, but remember what I said earlier, a better statue will always come down the road. So don't worry about losing pieces. Make sure there's pieces in hand before you go all in for multiple pieces. Last one is going to seem a little contradictory, but we're going to talk about it. One of the things we didn't mention, when you pay as goods and services through PayPal, you're only protected for 6 months. Well, if you do the math on a timeline, if you purchase a new statue, a purchase order, a commissioned statue, a custom statue, it's going to be longer than 6 months. So if you paid with goods and services, you're not protected anyway. So most of the time, I always pay as friends and family when I do purchase orders and payments. It's just a fact. Usually that last payment, I will always do the goods and services, but it's just the way it is. You're not protected anyway. Now, the one exception to this is sometimes people pay in full for a statue up front. I've done that. Every time I do that, I will pay as goods and services, even though I know it'll be longer than 6 months. Near that 6-month mark, if we don't have good progress, I will tell them I need a full refund and I will repurchase it again. I'll even pay for the fees. I don't have a problem with that. So I have a new 6-month extension. It's just the realism of the game. And recently I did that with a piece, and if I didn't do it, I would have lost $1,300. So that is the one exception if you're going to pay for all of it up front. Now, topic number 8 is also about buying. And you've heard this expression before, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now, I'm talking about when you're buying. So what does that mean? If you look at a company, whether it's Sideshow or XM or a custom group, you will see them put out amazing piece, amazing piece, amazing piece, dud. Everyone has a dud. So if you're sticking with just one company and you want to complete a line or have a theme to your collection, you're going to get a dud. Sometimes you have to go outside that company to get a non-dud. It's just a fact. So if you insist, I will only buy Sideshow, or I want Sideshow for this entire line, one of those is going to be a dud. I'm sorry. It's just the realism of life. You have to mix it up. Now, another part of this too, if you're buying from distributors or stuff like that, and you only buy from this distributor has no reason to continue to keep you happy or go above and beyond when needed, because you always buy from them. But if you buy from him, her, and him, they're all fighting for your business, and they might do a little bit better for you. And if one of them goes belly up or turns horrible, you have backup options. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Number 9 is about space. And this is really important because sometimes as a collector, space is a bigger obstacle than finances. Sometimes it's because of space that we can't buy something. And so one rule I put into place, and I will always follow it, is I don't buy a space until I have a confirmed spot for it. I try and get the dimensions, which a lot of times you can, and I actually physically measure out. Now keep in mind, this is 6 to 18 months sometimes before you get that statue you pre-ordered. So you have got to make sure you have the space, and you've got to reserve that space until that statue arrives. And if you rearrange your collection, keep in mind you need space for that piece. And along with that, another important rule is it is always bigger than you thought it would be. That's what she said. It is always. It doesn't matter if you've measured. It always is bigger and takes up more room, and you have to rethink. So if you're thinking, I'm going to be able to slide this in just right, that's what she said, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're not going to do it exactly as you thought it would, at least in my experience. Which brings us to topic number 10, storage units. This is specifically talking about storage units for boxes. Most collectors, myself included, keep boxes in case we ever resell. And this becomes very difficult. I have quite a few pieces in the hundreds, and that means I have hundreds of boxes. Thankfully, I have a warehouse that I don't need to pay anything for, anything additional. I pay for the warehouse, but for other things. So I don't run into that issue, but a lot of collectors rent storage units to store their boxes. Most of the time, this is not a smart move, and we're going to do some math to prove why. Let's pretend for a second you're a buyer, and an average statue price is $1,000, and you want to buy a statue for $1,000. That's the going rate for it. And the seller says to you, I don't have the box. I will discount it $200 for you, and I will pay through PayPal, goods and services, so you're protected. I'll custom package it. It'll be perfect. and you'll get a $200 discount. Most buyers, myself included, would say, fuck yes, let's do that. I don't give a shit if I have the box. I'd rather save $200. You with me? Everyone follow that. Now let's reverse roles. Let's say you're the seller. Let's say on average, how many statues do you sell a year? Some people sell 1, some 5, some 10. For this exercise, let's say 5. And let's say the average statue is $1,000 and we threw away all of our boxes. So we had to give $200 discounts on every single statue. You follow? So 5 statues times 1,000 minus 20% means we lost $1,000 because we threw away those boxes. Everyone follow me? If you don't, rewind it and do it again. Let's talk about how much a storage unit costs. Where I live, a storage unit big enough, not even big enough for my stuff, but just one for 30 boxes or so, if you have 20, 30 statues, is going to be $200 a month. And of course it varies from market to market, but $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. I'm paying $2,400 a year to store these boxes. However, if I threw them all out, I would lose $1,000 a year. Does that make sense? Do you guys get what I just did there? It is more important to not pay outrageous storage fees for your boxes. You might lose money with the resale, but there are ways to package them safely. Now, if you have a screaming deal on a storage unit, that's a totally different story. But for the most part, if you are paying to store empty boxes, you are probably losing money. Well, that's all I fucking got. So I hope you took something from it. And please, please, please let me know in the comments what you took from it, or if you disagreed with some of my stuff, please let me know that, or maybe some other tips you have as a collector that other people can take from. And make sure to leave swear words in it so children don't look at this shit. But yeah, really excited. This Saturday coming up, so if you're watching this in the future, then go back and look at my other videos. But coming up this Saturday, stay tuned because we have a countdown to the 5K sub giveaway and a countdown to Thanksgiving, and then a bunch of exciting stuff Thanksgiving week. So really appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you haven't hit that like, go ahead and do that. Hit the subscribe and the bell. And until next time, I will see you, actually next time will be tomorrow. Take care.